it's going to make the commission even harder for the sales associate to reach. They're not going to be able to sell as many bags. Things are getting harder to get. Basically, they're trying to target rich young people who have never bought things from Chanel and kind of nurture them to buy across all categories. So, you know, the fine jewelry, the ready to wear, and not just the bags. And people who have been collecting bags for a long time, they know that the bags are not worth it because they paid the price difference between now and like 5 years ago is completely different. And hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. A lot of people on YouTube are talking about the new Chanel quota policy situation with the classic flaps, and I thought I'd talk about this topic today and how Chanel are now only limiting customers to only buy 2 classic flaps a year. Now, when I first heard this news, I wasn't surprised. I know that Chanel are not producing as many classic flaps as they used to. Maybe they are trying to focus more in on the quality. You know, brands like Hermes and even, I don't know, there are some brands that don't produce as many bags because they don't, you know, they want to make sure the quality is good and they're taking their time to make the bags, and there's only so many trained artisans out there who can make the bags, so it's potentially the reason why Chanel is producing less classic flaps. Maybe they do want to improve the quality. That's what I'm hoping. Or it could be that because it's been a pandemic, you know, there are a lot of people who aren't working, so the next few years we're going to see a lot less classic flaps in the boutiques compared to before. Another reason is because they're probably trying to limit the amount of classic flaps on the market. I know if you go to a secondhand bag consignment store, I find that there's usually at least one black classic flap at the consignment store, if not multiple, in medium. And at the moment, it's not hard to find a black classic flap on the pre-love market, and that in a way affects the exclusivity of Chanel long term if the market is oversaturated with black classic flaps. Similarly to like Louis Vuitton, they are steering away from their monogram canvas because the secondhand market, guys, is oversaturated with monogram canvas, and there are many actual consignment stores I've heard that are not even accepting classic speedies or monogram canvas pieces because they just have too many on hand, and it's actually getting hard for them to sell because they just have too many. And in a way, I would say it's going down a similar path with Chanel classics. So they have to make some fast moves to reduce the amount that are being offered to people, so long term it doesn't tarnish their brand, because, you know, the classic flaps and the 2.55 bags are the most iconic bags from Chanel. They are the things that were the most innovative, the first flap bag. So many designers are, you know, inspired from the flap bag. So to me, that is the quintessential Chanel bag, and they have to protect that bag and its reputation. Now, in terms of quality for Chanel, I think a lot of people are saying it's not worth it anymore and that they should go to Hermes. I, for myself, agree, but I would also say that they're not comparable in terms of style, and there are a lot of people who just find Hermes very boring, which I kind of get as well. I actually think Hermes is very classic. For me, I actually find Hermes to be more practical for my lifestyle, for day to day. You know, comparing a Birkin and a classic flap, I would say the Birkin has a lot more functionality to it in terms of size and usability. I also think that the leather has more longevity to it. I guess I have a Birkin 30 here, but definitely experiencing the Hermes quality compared to the Chanel quality. They're not comparable in terms of the accuracy of the stitching and the feel of the leather. I also think that it's worth it more to invest in a Hermes bag because, say, if I'm walking down the street with this bag and I scrape it against a white fence and I've got a big white scratch here, the Hermes bag spa will be able to assist me in fixing that. And I think that is something that you pay for with Hermes bags. Even if you buy a second-hand Hermes bag, guys, the Hermes bag spa can still repair your bag. So I find that long term, yes, this was really expensive, but over say 20 years, I can really use and enjoy this bag as much as I want to, and I know that if something happens to it, I can always take it back to the Hermes Bag Spa, and they'll know what to do in terms of fixing up the corners, replacing the scratched up hardware, fixing the handles. And yes, I'll have to pay for that, but I think there is quality, more longevity in the Hermes bags compared to the Chanel bags. Now, Chanel is making moves to improve their after sales. They have implemented the Black Classic Flaps Toy et Moi program, where they can repair your black classic flap bag, and this is a service which costs about $1,000, where you can take your black classic flap and they can actually restore the leather and any stitching. And yeah, this is actually a bag restoration service which is new to Chanel, because they never offered that on any bags. The only things they could do is things like simple stitching, replacing hardware if it's a bag that is within about 5 years old. If it's a seasonal bag where they don't have the hardware anymore, they won't be able to replace it with its original hardware. A vintage Chanel bag, they're not going to be able to fix that. A bag from 1991, and they'll probably have this leather on hand and like this hardware, and they'll be able to fix it up and it will look brand new. And this is a bag from 1991 and it does look pretty good already. And I do think that the Hermes bags, you can use them and enjoy them and know that if you do damage it, you've got somewhere to take it back and that they've got the professionals to fix it. Whereas at Chanel, they don't have that as much with the colored classic flaps, which is what people really like to collect. Yes, Chanel has this service for their black classic flaps, but what I find exciting about Chanel, and I think a lot of people find exciting about Chanel, is the colored classic flaps, and they cannot really restore these bags in terms of the leather. And so I feel like the investment you're making into the bag is not worth it in the long term if you really want to enjoy and wear the bag. Because I know for me, the classic flaps, especially if you get one in lambskin, it's going to get corner wear, you could get scratches on it, and a bag just doesn't look good when it's like a Chanel bag. Honestly, doesn't look good when it's all dinged up and like saggy and scratched. Like it doesn't look good. And yes, you can take your bag to leather surgeons or some other bag spa, but I think that if you're paying so much for a bag, Chanel should be able to repair your bag. And I've talked about this before, but I think that is what Chanel will work on in the future with their after sales. They have to I guess, make the investment of the bag worth it, because if they don't have that service, then you're not actually, what are we paying for here, guys? Because Chanel bags, they're machine made. The quality is not the best. It's honestly not the best. It has to, at that price, it needs to be the best. And they're telling us that we're paying for the brand Chanel, and the brand Chanel are people that blindsided by what they're paying for. Like, do people love Chanel that much as a brand to pay that much? Because there are things that other brands are doing that are a lot more innovative, interesting, and cheaper than Chanel, that Chanel needs to realize. Because people who have been collecting Chanel for like the past 10 years, they've probably seen the quality go down in the ready-to-wear, the bags, the shoes, all sorts of things. The service is probably not as good as it used to be because the sales associates have more pressure on them to sell from multiple categories. And now they have this issue of they can't sell multiple classic flaps to one person. So it's going to make the commission even harder for the sales associate to reach. They're not going to be able to sell as many bags. Things are getting harder to get. Basically, they're trying to target rich young people who have never bought things from Chanel and kind of nurture them to buy across all categories. So, the fine jewelry, the ready to wear, and not just the bags. And people who have been collecting bags for a long time, they know that the bags are not worth it because they paid the price difference between now and like 5 years ago is completely different, and they probably already have the bags. Not to mention, guys, the functionality of the Chanel Classic Flap is somewhat outdated. It's a gorgeous bag. I love all the little useless compartments in it. But in terms of practicality and functionality, the classic flap actually is not a great bag. Like, the strap lengths are wrong, the capacity is extremely small. It's almost too big to be like a little evening bag, but then too small to be like a daily bag. I feel like the medium slash small class, like, it's just, I've actually let go of most of my classic flaps, and I find I don't miss them. I actually use my Hermes bags more because they are more daily bags. They fit my stuff, and I find for special occasions, the actual smaller Chanel bags do the job and are not as cumbersome as like the double flaps with all the extra stuff. And I found that with the bags that I sold, because they are so expensive now, you're able to get a lot of money back for them. And I just think I'd rather have the money at this point than a bag that is, one, gonna get ruined one day from me using it, and I won't be able to repair it at Chanel because they don't have the right color match. Two, does not fit much, and it's just like, I don't know, I just think the price is not worth it, guys. So for me, this limitation of the 2 bags a year thing, to me, I don't care, because I don't think it's worth it as it is. I think that Chanel, once they implement more after-sales care into their colored bags, maybe then you can justify the price because you can repair your bag properly. But before then, I just don't think, like, why would we pay this much for a bag that costs the same amount as a Birkin? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And if you want the flap bag look, there are millions of other designer brands that do a flap bag at a much, much lower cost and probably going to be more lightweight and functional and cheaper to buy, perhaps even better quality than Chanel at this point. So yeah, that's what I think about it. I don't know, guys. I think people will obviously still be buying classic flaps. I don't think this is going to kill the classic flap, but I think there's reached a point where, for me, if you're just getting into luxury, I know that at the price it is now, I would not even consider it, because I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's a very functional bag. I don't think the quality is up to scratch, and that's that. So yes, I would buy an Hermes bag because I think they're things that you can pass down for many generations and you can actually use them. Chanel bags you can't use. They're kind of just like little pretty things that you have and collect, and at some point that was fine, maybe a few years ago when the prices are different, but now it's, I don't know, guys. I think they're just throwaway items at this point. So yeah, anyway, that's a bit of a controversial opinion. Let me know, guys, is this limiting of the classic flaps something that upsets you? Do you care? Does this make you want to look at other brands? Does this make you have FOMO and want to buy more Chanel? I would love to know. And thanks for watching my blabby video today, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!